Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Now in this video I want to be talking about a very important subject if you're looking to improve in StarCraft 2, and that is going to be timing attacks. Now scrolling through all of my old videos, I realized that I have at some point mentioned along the lines what a timing attack is, but I've never actually made a dedicated video about it, even though it is one of the most important subjects when you're trying to improve in StarCraft 2. And for me, coaching a lot of people, as you may be aware, I do a lot of coaching for Zerk in particular. People in Silver, Gold, and Platinum League, probably in particular in Gold and Platinum League, don't actually execute timing attacks nearly as well as they could. And a lot of them are really good at, for example, following build orders, doing macro, defending aggression, but they're not actually attacking at any great times whatsoever. And that is really what is super important. So in this video, I wanted to be going over a very standard set of timing attacks that you may be able to use as a Zerk player, but also something that you can, actively use when you are playing Terran and Protoss as well. Basically what a timing attack is a push out right when a certain set of units finishes up, or right when you actually finish up a certain set of upgrades. For example, when you're trying to do a 2-base all-in from a Protoss versus a Zerk player, right? You're trying to push out right when you finish up your 3 Immortals. Or for example, back in the day we would have a +1 attack Zealot timing attack. Basically what that one would do is move out with a bunch of Zealots right when the +1 melee attack Forge upgrade finished up. And what in a realistic term that would actually achieve is the fact that normally it takes a Zealot 3 hits to kill a Zergling. When you get the +1 attack upgrade and the Zerglings are not upgraded themselves, it only actually takes 2 hits. Now as you may be aware, Zealots sort of attack slice, right? They basically slice multiple times. If it doesn't take a 3rd hit, oftentimes it completely speeds up the animation a ton, and you will actually actively be, killing the Zerglings twice as fast than you normally would be. So in a lot of scenarios, timing attacks are super important, and while it's sometimes a little bit difficult to exactly mention how strong a certain push out will be, it's very important that you do move out at the correct timings. So the reason why we're watching this Zerk vs Terran right here in the background is because in this game, I'm actually going over 2 very specific timings that are basically gonna be able to allow me to eventually obtain the victory. So while I do spoil the game here, not the goal of the video, we're looking here really at timing attacks and what that means and how you can go ahead and incorporate it into your own games as well. So a timing attack, once again, is a certain move out when upgrades or units finish up, right? And what that means is that you try and hit them in the face right when that happens. Ideally, let's say once again, I'm going for that Immortal timing attack. I want to push out right when that 3rd Immortal finishes up. Because the more time I sort of allow my opponent to sit back and, get his own army out, the smaller the chance is that that timing is actually going to be able to do work. For example, let's say I finish up +1 armor and +1 missile upgrades for my roaches, right? And I wait a couple of minutes. And then I eventually push out because I finally got a big amount of units. I basically just gave my opponent a couple of extra minutes just to try and finish up their own upgrades. And those upgrades usually are very, very, very big deals. So in this particular video, I am opening up with a bunch of roaches very shortly. As you can see, I'm going for a Roach Ravager timing. And what I'm trying to achieve here is to finish up my +1 missile upgrades, my +1 carapace upgrades, and also my Roach speed upgrades. I'm basically trying to push out right when these 3 upgrades finish up. And that's in this particular game, right? In some other scenarios, you may see people move out right when +1 Zergling attack finishes up. Or right when, for example, +1/+1 infantry weapons finishes up. Or right when the blink upgrade finishes up, right? Basically, you see people move out right when a certain set of units finishes. Now, what I see in particular in Gold, Silver, and Platinum League, like I already mentioned, is people moving out, but not moving out fast enough, or giving their opponents too much time before they actually move out. And that basically completely defeats the purpose of going for a timing attack in the first place. If you're trying to follow a build order, right? Let's say you're following Solar Zerk vs Terran build order. Let's say that is the case, right? If you're giving your opponent several, seconds, really, there's a much bigger chance that they're going to be able to finish up their own upgrades, right? You're investing resources a couple of minutes in advance to do a really strong push a couple of minutes later into the game. And you got to try and optimize the so-called so-called timing window in which your opponent is trying to finishing up their own upgrades. Now, in the pro scene, if you watch any of the the production tabs in the professional games, right, you will notice that a lot of these upgrades are oftentimes very, very similar. So look at these right here, right? My Zerg missile +1 and the Zerg Carapace +1 as well, which is going to be the benefit for roaches, actually is 4 seconds behind on my opponent's +1/+1 right here in the engineering bay. So technically speaking, there could be a 4-second timing attack from my opponent, and obviously in a lot of the lower leagues, that is not going to be that strict and that relevant. But the basic idea is that, like, if you're going for a Zerg build order, right, and your opponent is going for a Terran build order, right, and they're going for a very established set of skills, oftentimes those upgrade timing windows are minimized. Obviously, if my opponent, say, would be 30 seconds ahead on his upgrades and he move out in those 30 seconds, there is a crazy amount of additional damage that he can be able to do. Now, you know, you basically just gotta believe me in how strong upgrades truly are. Upgrades do add on a ton. Yeah, there's multiple occasions where that is showcased. But if you watched any of your own replays, you will notice that in a lot of scenarios, the upgrades do make a very big difference. Now, like I said, I'm also getting the +1 Glio, or I'm getting the +1/+1 right here, and I'm also getting the Glio Reconstitution. This is actually slightly mistimed by me. I did not start up the Roach Warren speed right when the lair finishes up, so I'm actually slightly late right there on that timing, but I'm still gonna try and push out right when that upgrade set finishes up. Now, coincidentally, because I have been following a build order, right around the same time as I started up my Roach speed, I also finished up fully saturating the 3 bases, plus I have my 4th base coming up, which means that at this point I am fully producing roaches, and I'm waiting right now to make sure that I'm not moving out too early, but I'm also not willing to really move out too late. So ideally, I hit him right in the face, right when +1/+1 and Roach speed finishes up. Now, in this case, I believe I'm going to be waiting for the Roach speed, but I want to be moving out right when it finishes up. I don't want to give them an additional couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, because then, you know, he's going to be finishing up his own upgrades as well. Now, in this particular case, my opponent has been on top of it as well, but you will be able to notice right here, he's probably going to go for armory upgrades. If we'll be waiting another 100 seconds or 30 seconds even, there's a much bigger chance that there will indeed be a push out coming from the Terran as well. So my Roach speed right now is finishing up, and I'm gonna go on the move. I'm gonna immediately go on the offensive. I'm still macroing behind this, and I'm not like planning to finish off the game here whatsoever, but I do go on the move. And honestly, there's like 10 seconds of movement right here that I probably should try and minimize. Now, in this particular case, I do get a little bit lucky because I catch my opponent right when he is moving out with his +1 timing as well with the combat shield upgrade. But we're basically fighting right now, right when the similar upgrades finish up. Turns out my army got in a much better position than his. His siege tanks weren't sieged up properly, and I'm gonna have to, you know, do as much damage here as possible. Now, because my opponent is obviously good at the game, he's not gonna be able to finish me off at this point, or I'm not gonna be able to finish him off at this point, so I will be able to fall back once more. And after transitioning towards this like army composition right here with the +1/+1, I know that there's a big chance, using the high grounds right here like my opponent is doing, that he's not gonna be able to die just yet, right? And while I just set up a really nice advantage, I'm gonna be forced to sit back. And as you may have already noticed, while that was all going on, I recognized the situation. I was like, well, shit, I'm probably not going to be able to finish it up anytime soon. So what we got over here is going to be these double evolution chambers, once again going for the +2/+2 upgrades. And at this point, and like in the meantime, right, I am just basically trying to make sure that I get that 4th base economy established. I'm transitioning towards a Spire as well because I saw my opponent going for a lot of Liberators. But very shortly, I will start making as many units as possible to once again push out when +2/+2 finishes. And the same holds true right there. I'm trying to hit them right in the face or right when the upgrades finish up. Now, in some scenarios, right, I don't know exactly if it's true in this scenario as well, but in some scenarios, your opponent is playing super aggressive, and you're forced to basically just sit, and you can't actually, you know, just blindly, you know, basically move across the map because he's dropping really heavily, right? At that point, it is oftentimes fine to either move out with a smaller part of your army, because, hey, they're also investing in dropping, so they're also not having all of their army at home, or to just simply go ahead and wait for a little bit longer. However, in a lot of scenarios, you want to try your very best, once again, to maximize the timing window by just simply moving out right when upgrades finish up. So right now I got myself another, I don't know, like 36-ish seconds right there to make sure that I get across the map, and that's exactly what I'm trying to use now too. Now I got a couple of corruptors incoming as well, so I may be waiting for that just for a tad, but ideally I do move out as soon as I possibly can be. Now, in the meantime, I'm already setting up for a transition towards another base, and right as I actually pull my units away, my opponent does go for another drop right here. But my +2/+2 is just about to finish. Actually, I'm slightly early here. I should not be fighting just yet. I am, however, defending against this stuff, and I actually do disengage there, which is exactly what I'm supposed to do. Because, you know, like I mentioned, fighting before your upgrades finish up is not a great idea either. But right now, my +2/+2 upgrades finished up. Now look at the timing window that I got. I don't know this, obviously. I do not know whether or not he's actually late on his upgrades. But it turns out I have a full 90 seconds right now in-game time that I can try and capitalize on because my units are simply gonna be stronger than his units. And if I would be aware of that right now, I could technically wait a little bit longer. But in a lot of scenarios, those upgrades are finishing up like roughly 20 seconds from each other, right? So you want to try and maximize that window. So I do get a full snipe on a medevac right there, but I am pushing in. I'm trying my very best right now to once again do as much damage as possible to try and make sure that I use the timing window to my advantage. Now, I am once again gonna go ahead and actually transition here into a bunch of other units. I do decide to go for Zerglings because they finish up a little bit faster, and I'm already transitioning towards the hive here. But my opponent decides to say, nice A move, and he's not incorrect. He's honestly not incorrect. I managed to defend against all of his drops, but the main attacks that I've been doing have been timing based and not so much, you know, strategy and like skill based, I suppose. Not like the craziest micro there whatsoever. I just simply A moved across the map right when upgrades finish up. However, that holds true for both Terran, Protoss, and Zerg. So hopefully you will be able to incorporate this in some of your own games as well. Just try and be very like on point with the timing, and you should be good to go. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. And other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you in the next one.